My name is Isabella Hartwell. I am 32 years old and I run one of the most prestigious art galleries in New York. 6 months ago, my husband vanished without a single word. No note, no message, nothing except a brief voicemail from his phone that had gone dead. Isabella, I'm sorry. My father, a prominent real estate mogul, told me to forget him, to move on, and called him a reckless dreamer who could never provide a future worthy of our family name. But I refused to let go, because the man I loved would never walk away without a reason. Then, 6 months later, while visiting an art installation in Brooklyn, I saw him, my missing husband, working there as an assistant for one of the setup crews. And when he finally spoke, revealing why he disappeared that night, my world stopped turning. Before I get into the details, make sure to like, subscribe, and leave your country in the comments. Now let's begin. Many people believe that influence and money solve everything. In my case, they only complicated things. I was born into the Hartwell family, known for dominating New York's real estate market for decades. By the time I was 28, I had already curated some of the city's most exclusive exhibitions and managed gallery that represented rising and established artists alike. Social magazines praised my work, and Forbes had featured me as a rising star in the art world. Yet none of that mattered as much as my family's approval. My husband, Adrian, was entirely different from the world I had grown up in. He wasn't wealthy. He didn't have connections. He didn't come from a line of prominent families. When my father first met him at one of my gallery openings, he barely glanced at Adrian and muttered to me later, "People like him don't belong in our world." But Adrian never cared about social status or wealth. He was patient, soft-spoken, and meticulous. He remembered the smallest details about people, their favorite books, the music they loved, the stories behind their smiles. He was the kind of man who made everyone feel like they mattered. And that was why I loved him. We had been married for 5 years. Our daughter Ava had just turned 3. To outsiders, our life appeared perfect. Elegant dinners, gallery openings, trips to Europe. But behind my father's towering glass windows, tension lingered like a storm cloud. He never accepted Adrian. Not openly, but in every glance. Every carefully measured word at family events, his disapproval was clear. One evening, after a particularly tense dinner where my father had criticized Adrian's lack of ambition, Adrian excused himself early to put Ava to bed. As soon as he left the room, my father leaned toward me, his voice a cold whisper. "You still have a chance to correct this mistake," he said. I frowned. "What mistake? My marriage?" "You should be with someone who strengthens our empire," he said, his tone icy. "My associate's son would be perfect for you." I was stunned. "Dad, I'm married. You can't change that." "Love doesn't build legacies," he said. I remained silent that night, but I never forgot those words. Life went on. Adrian and I tried to ignore the tension, focusing on Ava, our home, our moments together. Everything seemed normal until that night. It was raining heavily. I had stayed late at the gallery, finalizing plans for a high-profile exhibit. When I arrived home, the house was eerily quiet. Ava's laughter, usually greeting me at the door, was absent. "Adrian?" I called. Silence. I entered the living room. There it was, a white envelope with my name scrawled across it. My hands trembled as I opened it. Divorce papers, signed by Adrian. My heart pounded, disbelief freezing me in place. I searched the house, his clothes gone, his phone dead, even Ava's small backpack missing. For a moment, panic consumed me. I called him repeatedly, reaching out to friends, but no one knew where he was. The night stretched endlessly. By morning, my father had arrived, as if he'd been expecting this moment. "So he finally did it," he said casually, examining the papers. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice tight. "Men like him always do," he replied, his gaze indifferent. Then he picked up the divorce papers. "Sign these. Don't waste your time on a man who clearly ran away." I shook my head. "No." "You're embarrassing yourself," he snapped. "He left you. Sign." I refused. And though he left the room, his smirk lingered in my mind, a reminder that he believed power and influence could dictate the course of my heart. But something inside me refused to believe Adrian would leave without a reason. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. 6 months passed without a single trace of him. No calls, no messages, nothing. Then came the day that changed everything. I had planned a visit to the setup of an art installation in Brooklyn, one of the gallery's largest projects, A contemporary exhibition with hundreds of pieces and intricate light installations was being prepared. I arrived at the site in a simple black dress and a beige trench coat, escorted by the project manager. The morning felt ordinary. Cars delivering supplies, assistants carrying canvases, the hum of tools and machinery filling the air. But then, across the installation space, I froze. A man, wearing a paint-smeared hoodie and faded jeans, was carrying a heavy crate of supplies. His hair was longer, his hands roughened from labor, his face dusty, but I recognized him immediately. Adrian. For a moment my mind refused to process it. My husband, the man who once walked elegantly into charity galas and gallery openings, now standing among crates and ladders, working like a common laborer. I rushed toward him, my heels sinking into the dirt and scattered debris. Adrian's eyes met mine, and for the first time in 6 months our gazes locked. Shock froze his expression. The crate slipped from his hands and fell to the ground, the loud thud echoing around the room. Workers nearby stopped, staring in confusion. I didn't care. All I could see was him. Why? I demanded, my voice trembling. Why did you leave? Why the divorce papers? Why our daughter? He looked at me silently. That silence was unbearable. Finally he spoke. Isabella, please, lower your voice. Not here. Here, now, I shouted, after 6 months of searching for you. Adrian took a deep breath, glancing at the workers who were now watching. Your father, he came to see me the night before I left. My stomach twisted. What? He nodded slowly. He didn't come alone. He told me that my father had sent 2 men with explicit instructions. If Adrian didn't disappear from my life, Ava would be taken, hidden away where I would never see her again. The realization struck me like a thunderbolt. My father, the man I had trusted, the man I had relied on, had orchestrated my husband's disappearance. I staggered back. You stayed away to protect me and Ava? Yes, he said quietly. I had no choice. Every day I spent in labor, moving from project to project, hiding was to make sure she was safe. The truth hit me so hard I couldn't breathe. 6 months of tears, panic, and sleepless nights. All because of lies. Lies designed to control me. Adrian looked exhausted, older than I remembered, but his eyes still held that same warmth. I never stopped loving you, he whispered. My knees nearly gave out. Where is she? I asked urgently. She's safe, with my sister. Your father's people don't know. Relief washed over me. Ava was safe. But rage followed swiftly. My father had manipulated me, had tried to control our lives under the guise of protection. My hands curled into fists. Adrian watched me carefully. Isabella, I know the truth now, I said firmly, and I will not let him destroy our family. That evening, I began making calls. Every detail, every arrangement, carefully planned. The following week, my father announced a lavish gathering at his Manhattan penthouse, a showcase of wealth, power, and legacy. The room would be filled with his friends, business associates, and relatives. Sitting prominently was the man he had always intended for me, the son of his closest associate, charming, polished, and utterly suitable in his father's eyes. I arrived quietly, dressed in a midnight blue gown that shimmered under the chandelier light. Conversations paused as I stepped into the room. My father, ever confident, greeted me with a smile. Isabella, you finally decided to join us, he said, inspecting me as if I were a painting. I assume you've accepted reality? I didn't answer. I walked closer. Silence spread across the crowd. He noticed and raised a glass lightly, speaking as if to reassure everyone. I was just telling them that my daughter will soon make a decision that will strengthen our family's future. Perfect, I said, calm and unwavering. I have something to say as well. My father's smile faltered. Oh, what is it? For 6 months, I began, letting my voice fill the space. I believed my husband abandoned me for money. I believed the man I loved had chosen a life without me. But I know the truth now. The whispers began, spreading across the room like wildfire. I turned to face my father. You threatened him. You told him that if he didn't disappear, our daughter would vanish. You forced me to believe a lie. My father's face turned ashen. That is impossible. You're mistaken, he stammered, but his voice lacked conviction. I stepped closer. Impossible? Do you hear yourself? The man you called a dreamer, a failure, lived 6 months as a laborer, hiding from your people, protecting his family. And for what? So you could control me? So you could push me into a marriage you approved of? Gasps filled the room. My father's closest friends exchanged worried glances. The son of his associate, the man he had intended for me, lowered his eyes unsure. "You destroyed my marriage," I said, my voice cold but steady. "You made me believe my husband betrayed me. You turned my love into doubt and fear." "I did what I thought was best," my father said finally, his jaw tight. "No," I replied. "You did what was best for your empire. Not for me. Not for Ava. For your control. For your power." I removed the diamond ring he'd given me years ago, placing it deliberately on the marble table. Sparkle caught the chandelier light, reflecting into every corner of the room. "You can keep your empire," I said calmly. "I choose my family." A stunned silence followed. The whispers grew louder, people processing the confrontation. My father's face was pale, his expression a mixture of shock and anger. "You're being emotional," he said weakly. "No," I said, my voice unwavering. "I'm being honest, and I will not allow your manipulations to continue." I turned toward the doors. "My family is not in this house. I'm leaving." My father's voice rose. "If you walk out now, don't expect to return." I paused, letting the words hang for just a second. Then I continued walking. Outside, a sleek black car waited. Adrian was there, his clean clothes barely hiding the exhaustion in his eyes. When he saw me, a hint of uncertainty flickered across his face. "Are you ready to go home?" I asked. He hesitated. "Home?" I smiled softly. "Wherever we go together." He nodded slowly. We stepped into the car, leaving behind the penthouse, the empire, and the man who believed that power mattered more than love. The weeks that followed were quiet but full of healing. Adrian and I spent time together, reconnecting, rediscovering each other, and finding joy in Ava's laughter. The trauma of the past months hung over us, but we faced it as a family. Slowly, the pieces of our life began to fit together again, stronger than before. I never signed the divorce papers. My father never spoke to me directly about Adrian again. Eventually, his associates, the people he had used to try to manipulate our lives, understood that his control was over. One morning, as I watched Adrian teach Ava how to paint with colors all over her tiny hands and face, I felt a profound sense of peace. All the wealth in the world, all the power, could never have given me this moment. The joy of family, the love that had endured lies and manipulation. Adrian and I planned small trips, quiet dinners, evenings spent talking about our dreams, the art we loved, and our plans for the future. The world outside could continue its chaos, its demands, but within our walls there was trust, love, and truth. One evening, months later, we visited the gallery for a late exhibition preview. Standing among canvases and sculptures, I felt gratitude for the journey, the trials, the heartbreak, the lies, and the ultimate revelations. For without those 6 months of absence, I might never have realized the true value of love, the courage needed to fight for it, and the strength to confront those who sought to control me. Ava, now giggling as she traced colors on a blank canvas, looked up and whispered, "Mama, I missed you." And in that moment, all the fear, all the pain, melted away. Adrian wrapped his arm around me, holding me close. "We made it," he said softly. "Yes," I whispered, smiling through tears. "We made it. Together." The truth was simple, yet profound. The man my father had labeled a failure, the man who had sacrificed everything for love, was the only one who truly mattered. And I knew, without doubt, that no amount of power or wealth could ever replace that love. From that day forward, our family thrived, not in the shadow of empires or legacies, but in the light of truth, resilience, and the enduring strength of love that had survived betrayal, manipulation, and 6 long months of uncertainty. No mansion, no gala, no fortune could ever compare to the life we were building together. A life of choice, of freedom, and most importantly, of family. And as I watched Adrian and Ava laughing in the sunlight streaming through our apartment, I knew this story, our story, would be one I carried forever. A story not of power, but of love, courage, and the unbreakable bonds that define us. Если хочешь, я могу подготовить полную версию истории в формате